Right here, yeah. 1 second. Come on. Just try not to go on the desk. Playing a broken game at the moment. What's up? What's up? What's going on, bro? What's up, Mr. Washington? I'm not a girl, so I'm tired of making my bed. Somebody's here. That's weird. You just go right in the shed. No asking. Right in the shed. So here's another thing about this game. When I'm not using headphones, it like the sound through the monitor. Yeah, buddy. Yeah. Hey, buddies. Yes, I love you too. Okay, 1 second. You want to say hi? So what I'm hearing is sound starts, sound stops. Sound starts, sound stops, sound starts, sound stops through the monitor. In other words, the game is broken in more than one way at the moment. So I'm thinking about giving them time to update it, fix it, and then returning to it. Wonder who's writing these reviews. They got early access or some shit. Or better copies. Or PC copies. What's up? What's up? I know. Alright. Fucking tractors. The company or whatever for local tractors are here. I guess they don't ask. They just walk right into the garage without calling. They're supposed to call. For the snow plow. Hey, free snow service. My dad doesn't charge, so he does it because he likes to plow. That's what he says. I don't like to plow. So, but every time I did it, I didn't charge either, though. But what's up, buddy? It's cutting in and out. I gotta shave. I'm gone like doing one thing, neglect the other. You know? So I gotta talk to a camera, and it makes me feel like I'm glitching every time because it's like, hello, camera. Don't do that.
Oh, people are supposed to pay me for this. They pay everyone else. I'm not sexy enough. That's what it is. Not attractive enough. Here's the qualities you gotta have to be a good streamer. You either gotta be hot, or you gotta have really good English, which I have neither. Moment. Neither. You only need one. That's why it's, you know. I took a photo. They took a photo. I let them. I was drunk. Looked awful. I was like, when I went that day for CES. CES? CES was on my mind. It wasn't CES. It was fucking PAX. You fucking idiot in the camera. Misspoke. Take on a new entity, a new form. Nobody likes me. They charge me money instead of paying me money. That's why you don't do free things. Because humans will fuck you over the moment you start being generous. At least in upstate New York they do. Or they think like, oh, we'll pay you in food. I don't want food. Like the neighbor be like, I got you food. You can make food. Almost. Cash. Instead. What's going on, buddy? Hi. Isn't that a headache? The sound distortion? It's probably, I don't know if it's going through on your end. Hey. Even my, white cream and peppermint pretzels, which are, they're alright, but nowhere near as good as dark chocolate. The dark chocolate are better. Mister. Hey, crawling all over my desk. This is, it's like so mentally ill. I feel like I'm making myself mentally ill too. It's very good. I can imagine, like, talking to text, like you're supposed to be like telepathically communicating with people across the world that you can't even see them. Love is blind, my ass. That's some brainwashing bullshit. Love's blind, but you're gonna have to keep the blindfold on forever. It's gonna be like, time's up, bitch. Time's up. Guess what? You get to see the picture now. Here's all the pictures. All these dating apps to say the word. They certainly don't work. They never worked for me. Not once. Every time I actually went through the misery of setting one up. Fuck love. You know what love is? It's an infection, a chemical infection to make people stupid. See? I'm poisoning my cat by giving him hugs. Too many. And then he's poisoning me through the camera. We're poisoning each other. Right? Washington. You helped the United States, but you also poisoned the United States. Congratulations for not being perfect. Sometimes I'm curious, like, I'm gonna settle for less. And why the hell am I gonna get in a relationship with a middle class citizen? Oh, in general. it's like, I'm gonna settle for less. Might as well go rich, you know? In this economy, it's the mentality, though. It's like, it's trick or treat, masks off. It's about learning who someone is when you're, you can be ruled and measured, and then it's what people seek to transform you, because you are no longer in charge of your own body. You know, people say it's only girls. Bullshit. Any actor has the mentality to shapeshift. Any actor. And they're not all girls. It's like, oh, equality, but it's such a division, divided by nonsense. Brains, not bodies. It's not even bodies. It's brain activity that's like gets fucked by, in the end, is what it is. It makes you happy. You're supposed to work a miserable job for money. You're supposed to, all this stuff, and then they lock you into all this shit, And it's like one day they're like, why are you not showing up? Why'd you stop cooking for us? Like, what the fuck? Like, why the fuck did you never truly love me? All this, sugar, sweet talking. But it's like, would you rather disrespect? Well, at least disrespect would be more honest than all the sweet talk. Xbox fucking runs better. Or game. Out of the house of 100 of what exists in the 9th generation, if the 9th generation even exists anymore, as a categorization of some stabilization of organization. Okay? It does perform better, at least in the PS5. I don't have the Pro. Because it should have been right the first time. They fucked up the first time, so they went out and decided, we gotta improve. So, yeah. I should have got this on PC, see how it runs. But I made bad choices. But, another thing. I can't stream on my Xbox without an adapter. Which I need to focus my energy on an adapter, I guess. It reminds me of fucking old neighbors that couldn't comprehend how to not get, mentally raped by their cable companies, And they're like, oh, look, you got all these adapters and shit. It's like, no, you don't. What the fuck? They're trying to lock people in to this shit. And they're not, equipped for tech. This comes from a guy who has studied tech. Took computer tech. College course classes in high school. And I can tell you for a fact that Well, technology and brains are, yeah, you could find similarities if you dare. But the truth is, mostly not. Robots and shit are on a whole nother, funny thing really about frequencies and having, things be channeled through communication is that there is a neural network, and when people start blurring the lines between human brains and, robotic brains, arguably, you might not have tech ingrained in you, but what defines you as a cyborg? There's probably a better word for it, because cyborg has tech usually inside their body, right? But you are becoming more in tune with the tech, which is not, it is like being human but also robotic, if there's a high, like cyborg. Shit that I done that almost seems like, how would anyone ever learn that any of it exists? I dabble into technology and I start to glitch every now and then. A lot, sometimes. So, but it's, I don't know, you look at a lot of that shit, I'll tell you, I taught myself how to read, for example, things like that. It brings me back to a lot of things that were self-learned, and then gaining all this other knowledge, and it's like, well, what's the difference between a textbook and a cell phone than fucking Wikipedia? I would say unrestricted knowledge is the difference. Less restricted knowledge on online than in just textbook information. And textbook information is not even going to guarantee success, even if you learn the damn textbook, which many people have learned from a textbook and still never have fucking accomplished any, or, take a portion of it and do something with it. But that's about it, right? From their books. The mentality of data that is collected, that defines a lot. I think people are up to something. There's gods with secret agendas. They're not the real God. They just want to be gods, and that's what they do. Someone will sweet talk you into their sex dungeon. It's like, why can I see that, when I look at someone like Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Moe, Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, his marriage was always fake. Well, real legally, but always gonna end. Like, it was no brainer. Things like that. How many actors in general stay committed in the relationships that they get in? Most of them don't. Might be a rare exception. It's a very difficult career that is anti-love through my experiences. I'm convinced that your career to love requires your love to have a particular career that meets your career. This is, for example, you could end up getting fucked over because you get the love is blind shit. It's go blind you, make you dumb as fuck, right? And then you're gonna get screwed over, because you're like, oh, I'm so in love, and all this other shit. It's like, oh, great, I found the perfect one, fall madly in love, and then it's like, well, time's up. There's you're getting divorced, all this other shit. You know what I mean? I watched my biological parents go through, different types of shit, and in different whatever you want to call it, foster care shit as well, whatever the fuck it's called, multiple parents, so in different lives, because they don't all share the same similarities, believe it or not. So I don't know. And then I, fell in love once upon a time, and then, couldn't be there because I'm pretty sure because democracy was like, nope, 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 and tore us apart. And so no matter how hard we tried to be together, it was like fucking Romeo and Juliet. The only way you're going to be together is in death. I lived that. I believe a lot of people would live that. It's how when someone lived that and that experience, and then they come back from that. And I was young. People telling me I don't know what love is. It made me think. What am I missing then? And it's like, oh, brains, intelligence. Was I intelligently in love with her? No. That's the problem, right? The democracy was so damn invested with the people that were around me in deciding whether our relationship was good enough or not. That's so much power. That we were like, well, this is true love. I don't know about that. I think a lot of people settle for, for something like a trade, a sexual trade, or what they can get out of a relationship. And then when they can't get what they want out of the relationship, they're what the fuck's the point of being in that relationship? They're like, leave. You see, I can see a lot of people where I can imagine that the sex is great, but everything else is hell, probably. So, mentality type shit like it, And then somewhere it's like, it's deeper. Like, what do you want? I am crazy, because I want immortality out of it. I want two people to share immortality in a world that is constantly at war with each other, even in secrecy. Sometimes with nice, kind words even. They're not always shooting each other with bullets. Sometimes people are saying nice words to destroy people in the most creative ways possible. So I never once believed any of that nonsense that they tried to sell back in, Obama and Biden's era of time. The president hive mind speaks and how much you invest in the meaning of someone speaking for you in general. So it just, in each state, do you think I want to live in New York? I don't live in New York because I want to live in New York. I live in New York because I'm stupid. That's why. Because I don't actually think New York has ever been on. So, or I'm not reading into everything in New York, so. But I could read into things that are going to win. They're going to be. When I look at New York, I see fucking. Dude, people still think the Buffalo Bills are going to win this, with this football talk. Not that football really matters. It's fucking football at the end of the day. It ultimately doesn't matter. Any video game, any game on Earth, in the end, is just playing pretend in some matter, some format, of some way for people, and some get paid crazy amount of money for it, and most don't. So, and no, the Buffalo Bills, there's no way in hell they're going to the Super Bowl. Trust me. The only way the Buffalo Bills will go to the Super Bowl is if the other teams took bribes to lose. That's the only way. Off skill, they would never win. They would have to buy their way. Figure out how to buy their way. That's the only way. And even then they would fail because not everybody loves New York. Despite that they're like, oh, I love New York. When you go to other states, I've been in a couple states where I was judged because of my Excelsior plates, my supremacy plates, my superiority plates. What do you think the word means? You look it up. I didn't know what it meant until I knew what it meant. And what it meant to one person, whether they know. What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? Relaxing, taking over my desk. I'm not supposed to be up here. I'm a horrible parent, apparently. Don't run into the road. Here, this is what you tell your kid. You're in the road, let me show you a picture of what happens. You show them a dead body of a kid getting ran over by a fucking car and say, you want that? Don't run in the car. Don't run in the road. They're going to be chasing constantly because maybe one day they'll be like, oh. Their leg bent backwards, like different types of things, like how you hit on an angle, getting in detail. Say things to children that people say don't say these things to them. I think you should. Santa Claus did not buy these fucking presents. I did. Okay? True. Or, whatever. You want to go deeper. Like, what's this Santa Claus? Someone else did. This person did. Like, what is Santa Claus? Imagination? Because I'm pretty sure it's a translation to sex. Like, if you ever pay attention to what most adults, I'm sure anybody can rearrange the image of any holiday and what it means, what it represents. So, here's a create a damn holiday. I did that, and then I stopped doing that, and then next second other people do that. Just because I'm not doing it now, isn't like I didn't do it. I did. Question all holidays, despite that people are like, what? What are you doing? What are you doing? Submit to this understanding. It's like, oh, we're just trying to build something to get out of something. You don't love your job. What do you like about your job? If you love your job, then you really want a vacation, would you? Could make a question. How much you love your job? You love your job so much that you never take a vacation. Wow. Trades. Not good enough. Isn't 90% of careers, at least in the US, not good enough? What the fuck does McDonald's do, for example, for the human race? Or Walmart. You can go buy in the same process that Walmart does until they decide to buy their process out and block people. It's called capitalism. It's called fucking the little guy over system. It's not a kind, nice system, even if it tries to sweet talk you into believing it is. You ain't first. You're genuinely gonna be, if you're not one among the first, you're gonna, have to leave, or not get it at all. Right? Especially with product management. And you're not the creator, you're the person producing the product. It's true, it's accurate, which these companies don't technically have to do. Like, what's the motive? Why would someone call their team called Kill Media? Valid, right? What does it mean to people? These are signs that you could tell whether or not if something is, what you decide to do. Like, why do this? Why wait to somebody else? Should I hack really not game of the year? Less, obviously. With a name like that, there's elements to the game that I think will speak to a certain type of gamer. I'm not a certain type of gamer. I am capable of being all types of gamers. So that's the thing. Like, I have the ability, but for how long? What's up, bro? What's up, Mr. Washington? But anyway, begging to enter. Leaves, enters, leaves, enters, leaves, enters, leaves, enters, leaves, enters. It's the imprisonment of the mind. When you domesticate an animal, right, or domesticate a human, they become prisoner, mentality-wise. I didn't. It's not my cat. So, I just live. Where I pay my bills, rent off a room. So happen to have, at the moment, I rent off one of my 900, million parents that I've had because I was raised to be mentally ill. Nice things to say. Amazing, how an artist can be the brains for the music, and then a singer sings the brains, the words, and how someone can love where they come from, and what I could share similar with them and what I cannot. What I cannot is I will never miss my childhood. I will never miss any of my childhood homes. It's all an act, and that is not a good image for me when I went like, oh, I miss the misery is sarcastic. It doesn't exist anymore or probably not because of the whole Facebook, Instagram shit. But anyway, yeah. You kind of get locked into a deal when you come from nothing. You have to make, you struggle. You're going to struggle a lot more than someone who comes from something. I wish I was a fucking nympho baby. My life would be easier if I was a fucking nympho baby. I saw trade lives with a lot of them. My childhood, so a lot of great art out there. So, artists and, I don't know, it's just multiversal. Hello? Oh. Hi. You want in? Window? Desk? Enter, leave, repeat, window, desk, enter, window, desk, leave, repeat, door service. It's so predictable. Yeah, you see, futures, plural, patterns. Which one they choose? Sometimes you may not know, but you know that they're going to choose one of the other. Every possible choice they're going to make, because as you get to know how their mind works. This cat here, the scream of the door saying hello, 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 to lay in the window or the desk. And would climb on my keyboard, take a nap there too if I don't disassemble my keyboard and put it away. Tell them no, I'm an asshole. And turn me into a villain. You know, I did that when I was a kid. I could play the villain. I've done it before, but I'd rather, try not to. I'd rather not do it in real life. Play the villain in fictional movie if someone pays me enough money to do it. But, which I make a damn good clown, I think, like in the killer clown. I could do actors, for sure. But people who decide what's meant for you, especially if you're an actor, you have restricted limitation to the captain, which is the director. But then the director also can have limitations to those who are advertising and production. If they're not careful, could struggle into, the director gets privileges on the vision of steering the actors into the vision, but as the producer, they can't do shit, right? Without resources. When they have bare minimum resources, their vision becomes restricted to, what they do with the cameras. I can run around, for example, here and film all I want, but it would only be me doing it. See what I'm saying? I have nobody interested in that. I grew up in an area where, if someone was interested in it, and then God forsakes if people knew about it, their friends or whatever would go in their damnedest to make sure that they do nothing with it or some shit like that. So it's not like AI is new. AI existed in a small town I lived in really badly, where people would, you couldn't believe 90% of the shit that came out of people's mouths. So it's artificial. So I don't know, and then you get to choose if you're going to roll with that character. Which is what my tron is. When someone said, "Oh, you murdered someone," I didn't murder anybody, but let's put it this way: like if someone said that, which I don't know, maybe someone did. I haven't caught anyone saying that, but then I play the character to make everyone convinced that I actually did, even if I didn't. You see what I'm saying? It's, you might like take the essence. You hear so much of something, and it's like why people are like out there. Bigger names that are out there that have contacts are like reading negative comments more than positive. Probably because, it's kind of like me maybe, because it's like going to war, it's like a challenge. The positive, what are you going to get out of the positive comments? What are you going to get out of comments in general? That's a great question, because at the end of the day, it makes me think how meaningless English is and how we create the meaning of it, to begin with. So it's, people are like, oh, why don't you message a lot? I know like people could pull up on their, the software and see that I'm watching, or I might have them up, right? But I'm not like, oh, I'm a lurker, because I'm not always, that's what quality, right? So, it's, always communicating. Text. If I put my brain into text too much, I'm not going to be me. I'm going to transform into a different character, because that's what happens when I'm playing with a typewriter. Just saying. And so you want me to stay in your chat, trust me. 90% of you don't want me to stay in your chat, because I'll go from one character to the next. I don't want to be in the chat, because I know I can create a character. I could actually control a lot if I really wanted to. But the thing is, it's like, I actually seek to destroy myself 90% of the time. The chances of me ever meeting any of these people is unlikely. I'm not going to go out my way on a what if possibility. You know, the chances are it's, you know, so it's, I've done that what if. And I got catfished every fucking time. Every fucking time. So, yeah. So, there, you know, so it's, you know, people are like, oh, you gotta, like, you know, set up a date or something. You start talking to people online, you know, or whatever. Yeah, I don't believe in it. I believe it's all nonsense. I think these people are fake as shit. I think we're all robotic. I'm robotic the moment I start typing. I think everybody's robotic the moment they start typing. It's no longer natural. It's, you know, there's something that happens when the moment that all humans hyperlink themselves into the computer, into the grid, into an omniverse. That isn't even a multiverse. You know, the multiverse is pushed in to the human that is using it. That self becomes the multiverse. The death of self. The thing is that the death of self can also be manipulated by those who have a stronger version of self in that moment. You could break the strongest willed people, probably, if you just knew them. Isn't that the trick? It's not simply knowing the trick. That's like so many people, you know, it's... That's why I said, like, there isn't an actor on Earth, they're full of shit. If an actor on Earth says that they have the mentality of just one thing, they, you know, are locked into something. It's the whole point of being an actor is to be able to transform your mindset into even someone that you're not, right? Oh, it's been a while. He's gonna lay down and hopefully not take a shit. That'd be a first if he took a shit. So hopefully I don't jinx this. He's gonna lay down. There ain't much in here. You know, the castle got thrown out, not by me. I would have kept it for you. By assholes. Even though they never used it. Location-wise. I disagree. He used it every now and then, just not as much as the owner wanted them to. Parents can be evil. All different kinds of evil. True. You know, I wish that I could go back to the life that I lived. Not because I want to, but with a camera, an alternate version of it. So then, like, people could record everything. So they would have more hardcore evidence of everything in my life. It's because I feel like, isn't that the thing? Like, I feel like nowadays a serial killer could walk into a fucking courtroom and people's brain cells would just die. You know, it's, you know, I don't think you have to be, you even have to be the serial killer. I think you just have to convince the people that you're a serial killer. Right? Then you'll go to jail. You don't even have to do the crime. I don't believe you do with the way that most humans' brains work. You know, it's a very valid argument of why do we select, you know, people that are on a tax payroll, for example, or something. Like, we decide that we're going to put people as a jury that have no intellectual sight whatsoever selected. Now, it would be different if you made the whole world the jury, right? It's worse because you're framing a jury. You're being very selective on the jury. You know, can you imagine if the whole world was a jury? Even if someone went the whole state? Why someone would be like, oh, no, you can't do a state. What do you think the mentality is? Can you believe it or not that some people would vote knowing that someone's a serial killer and still vote for them to be free? There's humans out there that would. It's true. And like, what? It'd be very curious to know the morality of the population. What the population would do. The higher numbers. You know, if we started just throwing people's brains and hearts into democracy, it certainly would. Thing is like we have satellites that can see everything, but yet the media and the scientists and the people are like, oh, can't see it. I don't know. No, didn't see that. Or they'll be like, oh, we saw this, but with no explanation on how they saw it. And you're just supposed to trust them. But they read it, but they're all coming from somewhere. They track this stuff. They read this stuff. They pay attention to the patterns. Whether it's the weather or, it's what blinds them when they get the weather wrong. Things like that, It becomes more and more supernatural. This is why I believe that the translation or reception of God, the holy and the unholy, have just become completely unholy. That all of earth is under a crafting table of demonicry, at this point. So it's, and that's the only type of morality that's left, is those who suffer under being sacred internally, and those who have been tainted, corrupted, and that struggle from, understanding that you allowed yourself ignorantly, and so many people are willing to enable someone from the discovery of how to protect themselves from ever doing that, and they're so codependent. They're so, try to create people to be codependent. It's instead of trying to actually help people. I think it's great, if you want to, have a partner. It makes it easier if your partner's stupid and you outsmart your partner. And there you go. Easy wedding. One person's intelligent, the other person's the victim. No morality in the United States. There's no morality. It's all make-believe. There's movies. People acting everywhere. Someone's like, oh, I'm sorry you didn't learn anything. And my first time going to Los Angeles many years ago, I've been to Los Angeles more than once, but when I was at Hollywood Boulevard, for example, and I learned nothing. I didn't learn anything. It was like confirmation that I was right. That's it. So it was, in the end, I didn't learn anything. I didn't get any extra set of skills from anybody, this juggernaut of a place that makes talent, supposedly. No, I just put a magnifying glass on, the Wizard of Oz. It's always been there. It was always me. A lot of the stuff I was right. And I just let other people mold me into their image, or I would struggle. That's what it is. That's the rebel. Why the rebel, I believe, was born. It's because it's half in, half out with the people. It's containment. But when you're shifting, I noticed talent. When I would notice talent all the time. I was in school. I'd watch people, very talented people, and then they do fucking nothing with it because of the people they end up with, or where they go in the direction. And I was like, and then people who don't have talent sometimes ended up, which is rare usually, but every now and then it's the suppression. That's why. It's the talent that's there that's just suppressed and then it comes out. I did plays in private schools. I don't recall ever doing a play in public schools, right? The private schools still had, like everybody's parents and people can come watch, the whole assembly thing for the performances. Not all of them, but for, I don't know, about half of them, I guess. Because there probably is a lot that were like classroom only stuff that I went through as well. But, so, I don't know. At some point you're just like, what the fuck am I doing this for? Why am I seeking to look sexy? It's like I saw, a curl mustache, and it's almost like I never did that. It's like AI did that. I don't know, maybe people at bars will tell you, and it's all of a sudden it's like, why am I doing that? Why, it's like, what do you go to a bar for? It's a very valid question. Why does anybody go to a bar? I think it reminds me of this cup that I have somewhere called Pick Your Poison. And most people, pick a poison that they don't know how to get what they want from that poison. If that makes any sense. The poison that you select somehow made its way into society as a successful career, as a way of living, a way of life. The moment that alcohol makes someone rich, you already know that that's a big sign that something's wrong with society. So, or, you start looking at certain things, it's, I think like, it's like, well, musicians, I remember my first time, a bunch of them actually, and first times with different types of musicians in bars and not always knowing and having one, more than one that came to me, and then I, they went to a couple at certain tables and talked. But I had encountered all sorts of mindsets. And what you reflect or channel, a lot of times there's frequencies. It's what can happen, I think, in a brief moment and when you read certain things, you can see, vibes and stuff. The thing about vibes is that a lot of musicians are writers, not drivers. So you might think they're drivers because they're playing the driver, right? I've noticed this, that you could be, people could be convinced, and then that's why the fan base, they're driving, but in a lot of ways, they're not even writing their own music, a lot of them. Stuff like that. They're not even doing their own witchcraft or, notes and all this other stuff for balance and the frequencies. They let go and they get steered. They're now the ship, not the captain, right? So they're vessels. When you're just in a program, you instantly learn, the tune of a song or the instrument. It's not about necessarily relearning or learning something else. It's about the pattern, the statement that someone creates. I've tried different things with strings. I was never successful with those, anything with instruments with strings. I actually got very angry at things with strings. I don't know, I had a lot of problems with guitars, violins, and shit like that. I was better with keyboard, piano, and more naturally better with piano and drums. When I had dabbled with instruments. So that's just my experience. But honestly, drums is just a workout. You get the same pattern, but in a way it's like sometimes it's just the exhaust rate that you have to worry about. Keyboard, piano, way easier. more smooth. Could be more difficult because you don't have that challenge. Seem like drums have more of that aggressiveness or that beat, and that you have to hit it a certain way at times. I think it's like slamming, it don't work like that. You have to and I used to practice with that and realize like that was easy as fuck. Drums. I found drums to be easy. Piano, brought out the inventive side at times. Like I found like I was messing around with notes and not even always knowing, like forgetting. Like you learn something and you have to relearn something. From 7G, whatever, like different types that I actually have. Like in the end, I find like it better not to know what the notes are and to feel the sound and then memorize that pattern of what that device does off the sound. But then having something like, oh, this note here, it's a language that's trying to get you to follow. I get annoyed with that. I have never sang someone's song completely through. Nobody's on earth, no exception for any artist on earth that's ever written a song. I have never sung their song exactly as it was written. I have always changed it every time when I would allow myself to do that stuff. And then at times, like I couldn't do someone else's music without changing the lyrics. It's not in me. I'm fighting myself every time to stay locked into that pattern because naturally I'm a fucking inventor on my own. So it's, stuff like that. So just, it's like something, running like autographs and shit like that. And I've never had that interest. I look weird. I look at people like they're all like, what is that? A piece of paper with a name on it? Or a shirt with a name on it? And like, I gotta make that cool. See what I'm saying? Despite what? Like, what am I doing with this? Exactly. What am I doing with this? I had a good conversation not too long ago in person with actors that starred in Marvel Rivals, and I didn't need their signature. I didn't buy anything. I just talked to them, shared ideas, and because I knew Marvel Rivals was going to succeed. I wasn't even playing Marvel Rivals at the time, and I sure have told them that. And I was like, "What do you think?" I was like, "Their Obscure Expedition 33 is going to win Game of the Year awards." I was straight up, with the actors that were voicing these characters, because I knew inside me, I know that there is a voice that can be trusted, that can read these, can see these. Does it make me money? No. Fuck. Shit. It has never made me money. I've actually been sabotaged, I felt like, off of when I went. And, I had followed a vision and watched that vision be robbed by another influencer. I was very vocal about that vision online, so which made it more, flexible to be changed. That's how the future works. Yet in the end, people make it. So but when you look at that, the secret, if I know something, shut the fuck up and don't say anything about it. Right? And it will happen. Stuff like that. And you'd be like, well, you put money on this, so you can't have the money trapped. When people put money on things, how do you think they know everything? Then by the obscurities come in to blind people. kind of. Sometimes depends on the mentality, the current mentality in the industry. It's true. The United States, this is why Mark and a lot of other people that have their own companies outsmart Congress and, outsmart all these people. And, it's because they follow and read the laws, and they outsmart them because they realize that they are genuinely flawed. But they also, most of them do nothing about it but benefit for themselves. As Mark has been very loudly, he's one that's loud all over the media that doesn't care about his customers, really doesn't care about them. He cares about what he gets out of it and his image, you see? And he knows that the United States, laws can't come after him from that. It's like, true. It's fucked up. And it exposes the truth. That this is why privacy, evil people thrive off of privacy. The moment that they am saying, hey, I want to get caught, other words, or I want to test this out, if I'll get caught. That's the problem. It's like evil. The United States has never been about morality on paper. The Constitution, any of this stuff. And it doesn't guarantee a sacred, holy world. See what I'm saying? It gives opportunity to both the holy and the unholy. See what I'm saying? To both the good and the bad, or the evil, whatever you want to call it. The morality of those who are pro-free will and those who are anti-free will. There are people who are anti-free will that are also pro-free will because they can make someone else. This is the saying that I learned when I was a kid, is that one's hell can be another's heaven. Do you know what that means? That means someone could be in hell and someone could benefit from that, and they're going to be beneficial of that. That's capitalism. Capitalism does that all the time. Beats people down. Do you think these rich people that are getting smart be like, I'll give you $100 here. $100 is nothing to them. They keep them employed. It's like, I don't dare give you too much because you could run away. I got to keep you prisoner. You won't do anything if I pay you too much, right? That's their mindset. They act stupid. Like, I don't know how I got this. And then go in and see, this is how I got this. Psychological tactics. Capital. This is why people give the people the money. So, I like you, I'm going to pay for your film. Because, let's be honest, actors aren't paying for their films. Most of them. So, they're getting paid to be in the films. But you have and that could change one day too. Who decides the value? Directors out there taking less money. What do they get out of that makes it so they're willing to pay the actor more? Right? Why do you want to work with this person? Why do you want to say good things about this person? Why do you want to sweet talk your way into a really good paycheck? Exactly. Now, the concerning part about it is the mentality of actors. That everybody thinks they're... Some people, not everybody, but a lot of people think they're supernatural and have extra intelligence. Some of them, they have the ability. We, in general, anybody who simply taps into that mentality has the ability to be extraordinary. Iconic, some people call it. But the thing is that that doesn't guarantee that someone else isn't going to outsmart them in the competition. Especially if their character takes over. Think about it like reading a person. There's reading their mind, and then there's reading their activity. Reading activity, for example, depends on the pattern, right? It's the shape of the body. How I was in better shape was because I isolated myself and only weightlifted my own weight. No matter if anybody said, "Oh, you gotta lift more weight." No, I lifted my weight, and that was it. What I weighed, I lifted that amount of weight back then. That was it. And I would use it as balance. It was about balance, not about muscles. It was about actual skill. So, and I knew the most important thing to a fight, or survival in general, is balance. Mind over environment. So, if the character gets all muscles, people think you can't take out someone who's all muscles. That's more of a mental thing. If you can't figure it out, there's a boulder sitting there. You know, do you want to move the boulder? If the boulder got their own legs, the boulder gonna do what the boulder want to do. You get to decide whether or not if the boulder's gonna win or not, mentally, right? Because you have more control, balance. So, in other words, you could make a boulder defeat themselves. Depends on what you want. Do you want to win? Do you want to lose? And why would you want to lose? I think people would want to. I could see why. You know, many different ways why someone would stage their own loss as well and be absolutely okay with it, but maybe pretend they're not, or stage the win, and then like where everybody hates them. But the thing is, like, people really don't fucking hate you anyway. People, not everybody. See what I'm saying? It's like I grew up in areas where, like I said, you want to know the truth. Fuck you know. Well, just pay attention to the speakers. They'll sit there lying their asses off. You read into the words, they'll still take you for a spin. God, I got chemically infected with love, and they didn't even love me. They just wanted to fuck me. Exactly. That's what happens. People in that area, that shit. Trust me. It's like, well, I wish I had, like I said, I wish that, you know, I knew how to time travel, not to change my past, but to prove as evidence of my entire life in looking at everything. That's how I look at it. And I guarantee my biggest flaws, well, I was going to say were words. You know, sometimes playing pretend, investing in what someone says, even if I'm not, like giving in and actually verbally going along with it. But actually, I disagree with that. When I was younger, I let certain things take me over. When I was very, very young, I remember the feeling of letting myself be influenced by others. And then I would, you know, might have channeled that further into an action, right? A couple times when I was a kid. I think the worst thing I probably ever done was to myself or to someone else. I think it's different. You know, I think in some ways to myself it was I don't know. I think the self-sabotaging thing isn't, really as bad as what some people think it is. I think in some ways it's just other people deciding that it's bad. I think the other stuff is it's obscuring the idea. But if that's the case, you have the power to obscure the idea. That means we have the power to enter people's minds, is what people are suggesting. And if that's the case, we'd be living in a society that is actually saying we're all telepathic. We all have supernatural abilities. But also not saying that we all have supernatural abilities, but investing in them. That sounds very manipulative. It sounds like society designs manipulation, in history. So I just dissect things, and democracy decides with it, other words, what it is. I've been in situations where I let things, and the verbal stuff isn't even bad. I don't believe the verbal stuff is bad because all the verbal stuff that I've ever done out of investing from like an image or something that I'm trying to imagine, whether it's a bad image or a good image or, what I'm drawing from, is always just words on paper at the end of the day for other people to decide, which is, right? It's all just words at the end, unless you're suggesting I mentally have so much power to enter into people's minds, or if other people have that. I think I think that's an interesting thing. I think it's a dangerous thing, because you're talking about brain control, and I think it's a phenomenal question, because are we under some kind of brain control? Could you say like that an economy could brainwash people? I think if you let it, the exhaust rate. I think I've been a teacher most of my life, when I've interacted with things more than someone who helps himself. I said this before, spend enough time in a typewriter, you'll start to transform into whatever you're investing in, to that fictional character. Verbally, at another level, not physically. And through my experiences, I just struggle with the idea that verbality or words have so much power unless we allow them to have so much power as the individual who receives them. I've had a lot of people say a lot of horrible things, and tons of people have had a lot of people say horrible things about them, but or threaten them verbally. But at the end of the day, even a verbal threat is not really a threat. Like, I've come to the realization that it's only a threat if it manifests itself into and becomes a physical thing, right? If it's affecting you inside, that's you, right? That person is clearly trying to do something to break through or something, some kind of creation potentially. But the interesting part I come to realize is that this demonology thing doesn't seem so far-fetched. It's the idea that humans have demons and that people can communicate with them. The back door, right? Go in this area to find other ways. Like, why are you not there? Why are you not going to Manhattan? Why are you living online? what's this or what's that? Why do you put this here and there? What's that? What's this? Essences. I have been in many situations where I realize that I just simply there are states and influences, sure, invisible walls, but that doesn't stop. Some down here is claiming he's perfect. Ask, what is it perfect for? Who is it perfect? And they're like, well, mafia cartel level shit, mafia renamed. People out there investing in privacy, and I'm the asshole that sees it as a weakness more than a strength. Privacy, a strength for evil. For those out there. That's the thing, though. To understand a villain, you have to mentally become the villain. If that makes any sense. You don't physically have to become the villain. You have to be able to put your mindset into it to understand, and to understand how that's possible. I'd be like, well, you could try to do all this. You think this one's special? That's the thing. Iconic is, to me, sometimes is another word for enslaving people mentally. It's a trade, right? One of my first times, I walked down the street and had this whole street, literally hypnotized. And I kept thinking, about, holy figures and unholy figures the whole time while I was being watched by and people that weren't even hiding. They were just on the streets. My presence, the moment I hit the street, walked. And how they could not stop staring at me. And how they were communicating with their eyes. And I kept thinking, these people really are selective in what they allow. And no wonder why there's demonic gods on earth, or why that would even be possible. Where people idolize, it's like if people are idolizing me, what do they see in me? See what I'm saying? I struggle to even have a self. So, I don't know. So it's like, am I supposed to be a holy figure? That's how I really felt. And I was like, am I passing this up from being this holy figure? These people want a holy figure. I got to give them something to believe in. This idea. It's so powerful. And it brought me right back. I was like, this is part of the problem of the whole world. Bigger than self. This idea that someone thinks that you need figures like that really makes me think about how many people are brainwashed. And even if people have their best interests, what would I do with that power? Not be able to not probably tell the truth. I feel like I'd get fired before I probably am hired by revealing the whole damn story plot. Right? Things like that. So it's, I think for me it's, the war would be with the NDA. If I'm stupid, the war would be with the non-disclosure agreement. So, because I would still go into this obsession for spewing the truth, or whatever the word is. Just, you know, you know, freedom of speech, you know, Dewey, if I'm sitting there and like, oh, you want me to say? I'm going to talk about sugar cookies in a gross way, or do you want me to talk about puke like they're the sweetest, nicest thing on earth? You know, I just be present.
About that.
I have reached and broke through a lot. You know, I have taken credit for destroying the gates, you know, that held in this, the almighty flood that unleashed it, the wisdom and knowledge, you know, and did it. And then also let others, and encourage others to also take the credit of my work through simply being present in clubs, not always when someone is physically present. But that's the thing, is you don't have to be physically present to have it reach the entire world. That was me just simply being honest, dissecting everything. So, and then not keeping it, but releasing it to the whole world. What did I get out of it? That's a great question. I don't think I did. You know, I'm loveless. You know, I got nobody, but you know, money, maybe, if I'm lucky, every now and then. So it's not always even that. So, you know, it's, you know, you get an offer to do porn. So, you should have done that. I should have, you know, gotten hard and fucked these strangers, got to know them, was filmed, but the suggestion was, I still as they feel like I shouldn't. That I have no doubt in my mind was, you know, one of the best choices I've made was by not accepting that career path. But other people would disagree. I think people would find it to be very easy to get into the porn industry. They have very low standards, very low value. They want to catch what you can do with this person, this image, and if you can do with this image, it's the mental power. You see what I'm saying? And then the mental power from another person is, it's how you could live in the devaluation. What do I have to give in the end if I've given it to a porn industry? Good point. My image is out there already, somewhere, right? By choice, because I was stupid enough to create a OnlyFans account, even if I didn't use it. I set it up to be used, but never used it. There's that image that I was okay with. But if we're going to be like, cheating is online, that's interesting. The word cheating in general, it's like everything is developed, designed For me, it's exhausting to worry about who the fuck your significant other would be texting or doing online. It would, if I'm gonna apply energy, I would apply more energy in her physical presence and being grateful and thankful that she's not physically doing any of that with them. That's how I see it. And that she's only doing it with me. That's how I look at it. It's different, yes. I do think it's hard to look past if someone was in the porn industry and you get in a relationship and you hear that news physically. That's why I think straight up knowing it before you go in is your own fault if you choose to go into that relationship knowing that that person was in it. They were honest about it, and you let yourself go doing it anyway. And maybe you were testing yourself. You know, there's a lot of different outcomes that that person could be in. But if they don't tell you, and you aren't, somehow don't discover it, you know, somehow you missed it, then I think it still makes me question myself at the same time of how did I miss it? How did I fucking miss this? And is it worse? I think there are, again, characters that would be like, I'd rather it not be like that. Accept the love that you think you deserve. For the high value love, ask what's high value. Do you think it's a value love if you're sharing your love in the porn industry? To me, that's unlikely. Do they know what they're doing? And they're happy with that? I'm not happy with that. Putting myself in that character role, I would have to create a character that was happy. See what I'm saying? Other words, time's up, motherfuckers. You know, daddy fuckers, whatever you want to call it. Relocate and rearrange the words all you want. Did you need to go through a labor of bodies to find the one? The soulmate. I don't think you do. I think anybody who knows in that moment knows. Once they cross them, they realize. But they get their timer up. People think, oh, I'm in this marriage. They ain't watching married people flirting with non-married people out there in the world. Are you going to babysit your husband and wife, or whatever people's husbands and wives out there? You know, when you're in a relationship, you got to babysit them for what they do at work, the pleasure. You know, what's the chances of someone who is like an actor or actress, whatever you want to call it, says that, I don't know, that they've never, had anything spark, and it was accurate. Maybe I should reform that word. Never had a character. The spark. You know, Jennifer Lawrence once said, and an example, what's the difference between someone who's in the porn industry and the sex work than an actor or actress that is doing sex scenes? How do you know if it's real? The thing is, as one is more real, more, right, letting you know, It's more real. The other is being creatively clever about, oh, is it? It's like, did you ever fall in love with your co-star when you were married to someone else? It's like, how do you get away with this? If look at what makes two actors' relationships prosperous. And then you look at the movies they're doing, ask, why are they taking those jobs? They're starring a lot of multiple partners playing those characters. Do you think that relationship could last? I think there's a types of relationships. In their case, I think like if they're both honestly, mutually agreeing that there's a word for it that I don't remember what it is. Where two people are able to fuck multiple people. You want to do that? Someone want them to do that? How far are you gonna go before you break under that pressure? You gotta become that person. My lesson is humans are fucked. 90% of the time, they're gonna be outsmarted by higher forces. Even sometimes demonic evil forces. If you're not careful, where are you gaining your enlightenment and wisdom? Has your God guaranteed you a marriage? You go to the same church, you get married, puts it on you. How many gods put it on you? And how they do it? They'd say, "Oh, depend on me," but then it's like inconvenient. It's like depend on yourself. Here's something I find interesting. A god can create a devil and let the devil become a god, and then have that god make gods, introduce gods, and have that god get fucked over by their own creation. This constant cycle of, oh shit, I feel so sad for these humans. We gotta move on, angels. And they're like, fuck Earth, in the kindest, nicest way possible. Fuck the humans in the nicest, kindest way possible, That's how I look at many of it. It's like, oh, this translator, it's like this person became this. It's what you put into things. It's the same reason why there's fucking churches out there that have tons of demons enter their doorways and all these filthy sins that come out of them. And you find out the rude awakening later that they were up to no good. It's like, no, anything but the truth. It's that Amazing Spider-Man scene with Up and Knife, and he said he pulls out the fucking truth. And they're like, oh no, you found my weakness. It's the truth. Get it away. I need a new painting. I need to paint some shit over this. Give me a blindfold. Give me a VR headset. It's sacred. Holy, unholy. What is all that? An obsession for knowledge? The death of self? I wonder why actors are divorced before the divorce. They come to the conclusion that you better be willing to share your partner if they're gonna be in that industry. Like, there's certain adjustments. Embrace this. And so cheap. There's a mentality it's interesting, the mentality where sometimes it's like sound. But do you hear people in your head? As I do. But I don't know. My head feels like a shitload of pavement is over it right now in this moment, and I'm just sitting in hell, translating I'm gonna go out there, find true love, pursue true love, fail at it, go again, repeat constantly, over and over again. See the truth, keep going. There are some people that are allowed that clearly, sadly, are destined to have nothing but failed marriages. And if I let myself, I'm so naive and stupid to let myself fall in love with someone like that, which I could and be very vulnerable, I could become no different in that measure of others. I'd rather avoid that. Is what I'm saying. I'd rather suffer in darkness than have a sliver of heaven be nothing but a tease, a deception. Now try and fight that line. I'm pretty damn strong, because I don't go down that road. Although in temptations, do it. Become a whore. Do it. You could be the best fucking whore ever. Go do it. And you're like, nope. It's like, I'm gonna make sure that you'll never, ever have love in your entire fucking life. You're gonna have to go down that horrible road and learn to like it. You could see it. I could see it. That's the trait that I get out of hell. It's vision. What did I say? Remember, like psychics, real psychics, back in the day before money, exposed why psychics should never be paid money to begin with because of what it does. It's like I said, if it's the moment a psychic asks for money is the moment you know they're a fraud. Trust me. A psychic gains their power, their ability off torment. Believe it or not. A lot of it is pain. The death of self, to be able to allow oneself to go in that trance and may follow someone else, but to know like there's going to be things on the other side, they're going to try to drown you, drag you, that there's demons out there, and the moment you don't know the force, the propellant, you're going to get taken over, and that it has everything to do with enlightenment and wisdom over the demonic essences that are trying to control you. That's why spiritually I fly completely alone over there with nobody. It feels incredibly lonely, but it's also incredibly freeing. At the same time, being lonely and freeing, like suffering the pain of being alone and having no one beside me, but also not being captured ever in any type of format of design. Like I could go through hell and know that there's an expiration date. Some formats of hell are going to have a higher lifespan than other formats of hell. And when you live in a format of hell, it has a higher lifespan. They will expire eventually. If you can't figure it out, you'll eventually be able to figure it out. Is what I'm saying. I think simply living in something that puts a certain mentality somewhere that can control your mind and ruin you. Who would you be if you allowed yourself to become that person? You see what I'm saying? Essence of influence. People hold all the cards, all the cash, trying to be the influence over the cash. But who would you be if no human had no influence over you and you had, it was a society that was truly more invested in money than anything else, and you could do whatever you want with infinite amount of money? I certainly would not be doing this. That's for one thing, and some, you know, and by saying what I do and doing what I do would piss off a lot of people because I would seek to be better. You know, I now have the means to also help people that may or may not have said that they helped me when they didn't at times. And what kind of help are we talking? See, I see some people are like, well, here's the money, make your decision if you're going to do drugs. Where do you think that's coming from? Where does it go back to? The drug business. Paying the rich. It's like where that money is going to people, you know, make more drugs. This person may not be this. Make a decision, they go buy that drug. It comes back and I'm like, oh, I'm making money off this. Some of them, that's cartels and shit. Renamed or unnamed, whatever. The name itself really is not as powerful as some can make it. It's more the what the fuck they're really doing behind it. Same thing, leering. That, what is it, not learning, but leering. Children's care or something like that. And people are like, there's no kids there. I clearly see kids. Or are they kids? What kind of kids are we talking about? You know, mentally, when someone's saying they see no kids. Good question. Like, how do you know that they're stealing money? Or, how about here's a better question. Why do they need millions of dollars for arts and crafts? Material that isn't worth millions of dollars. To begin with, it's very minimalistic and exploration. Like faster even. Like what a waste of money off extra, like, because, well, we get big houses. That's why you open a daycare. Do I want to be opening no daycare? I'd rather not. But if it's fast money, see what I'm saying? It's like, I'm going to retire after I get that $1 million if I do that. Yeah, I don't want that. I just want the money that'll help me out, you know? It's like, and then it's like, what if there's evil going on in there? You could fuck yourself over. True, possible. Depending on how dark and malevolent the government is in that era, that time. The people who are running the government, you know, or blind, not necessarily malevolent, but ignorant as well. So you have to pay attention to these things, and I do. Like, do you think there is evil going on there? I think it's no different than if it was. If you're looking at it as words, there's no. It's just a mentality of how far someone. You know, it's. To me, I see it as a mentality because it doesn't matter what the fuck it says. I kind of get that. You know, the intelligence is saying like leering or learning, and then being like, well, misspelling and then not doing it a certain way. Like how someone comes up with it where there is money, and then why people will defend that, whether they are intentionally evil or not, or how you could use mindsets to your advantage. I think it, at the end of the day, is actually pretty genius to misspell it on purpose when I come to think about it, because what you could do with that and lure people in, but behind the scenes, because whether or not, if someone's doing the crime off the wording itself, that's not going to tell you shit. You know, how many lies are out there that are spelt? You know, how many sweet talkers are out there? You know, really well-spoken people out there. I don't believe in words defining whether someone is moral or not, or misspelling. Out of the videos I've seen, you know, you might even say, well, maybe there's a fast way to make money, right? But when I look at it, I could get the argument where maybe you're like, well, they're overpaid. They'd be like, are they overpaid? Are you going to open up a daycare? What are you going to do if you open up a daycare? Why do you want to open a daycare? Is it overpopulated? You got to, you know, raise all these people. I think it's an interesting mindset. That doesn't mean whether or not they're doing anything evil. I believe it's possible. Just as possible as someone with a mentality going into one thing to the next. People reading vibes incorrectly or something. Like, I was in a... You know, I've been in situations where I talk to people, and when I talk to, you know, I remember, so these are your friends, and I was like, trying to understand what that person heard. You know, I remember one time, like, when I was in Maine, and talking to strangers on the street, and then watching this other group communicate with this other group, and realize, because you know, apparently these people said they were from New York. I was from New York in Maine. I remember this. I went there for a concert, and I remember being there, like, and actually talked to people kind of from New York. I went bar hopping after the concert eventually, so I went bar hopping, and I went through all these different places, and plus I get free charge my phone. I use one of my things, because a lot of, probably not all bars, but I've been in a lot of bars where they're kind enough to let me charge my cell phone, and obviously if I get a drink or something, or I'm not just freeloading in the bar, but, you know, if I, you know, need to charge a phone, it's convenient. But looking at, like, different experiences. There's one in particular where there's people who claim they're from New York verbally. But then these other people come, and I watched them go down, and I was like, okay, well, you know, I felt like there was something going on. You know what I mean? But it wasn't verbal. That was extra. And that was going on. So this group, I was standing in the middle of these two people. And I thought, or two. Okay, so 2 New Yorkers, supposedly. 3 people where one is living, or 2 of them are living in Maine. Apparently, verbally, at least. I don't know. And then one of them is visiting their friend. And that other friend is emotional about that friend potentially leaving. Which, right? So that was something going on there. Then the emotional. Then there was the emotional aspect of the New Yorkers. That felt emotionless. I felt nothing, right? So, like, I was just brainlessly talking, just because, whatever. But I don't know. But then something else happened, like I said, and then it was about supposedly this guy's girlfriend, and then watching what these New Yorkers start to do. And, like, all of a sudden, this interaction provoked demons in the New Yorkers that I was hanging out with. And they actually, there was a confirmation, between that was activated. And it made me think, later on, I started to think, like, maybe this girl has so much power mentally. I thought it was interesting. So I did pick a side, because I thought, okay, there's something crafty going on over here with these 3. And then watch after the fight goes down, as I actually was playing the observer, studying this, and the interaction of the police, and watching how insanely stupid it was. Nobody physically really got hurt. It just so it wasn't like worthy of throwing anybody in jail over, but it was, interesting the way the energy and demonic turned into this verbal confirmation that they were, like, attacking each other verbally, and then watching the New Yorkers actually start to become violent, and then watching these other people, like, realize, and then after it happened, they were like, they took the side of them, and were like, they're fine. They're like, because, the cop, right, was standing there, could have took energy and went another direction and decided to lock them up, right, for when the moment they decided to get violent, to actually turn it into physical action after being. And I followed them, hung out while they invited me. I didn't just, like, randomly follow them. I was gravitated and out of curiosity, and they let me. And so I started hanging out with the 3 of them after that. And I remember thinking in my head, like, oh, fuck. I have this bus coming. It's going to take me back to New York. And I'm going to have to, and I have the bus station. There's no fucking bus station, right? In Portland, Maine. Apparently at the time, there's this little dinky thing where the Greyhound would show up, and you'd have to ascend under it, and it leaked at the time, and you'd be drenched in pouring. It was pouring fucking rain at that moment. And they were like, shut things down. At a certain point, everything's like fucking shut down, or if there's some secret place that isn't. And I'm walking with them, and we're just having, like, normal conversations, like my, curiosity, and then all of a sudden, they were, like, deciding, okay, we're gonna go home or something. And another guy says, oh, are we gonna, invite him or something? And then the other guy was like, I don't see why not. then the other guy said, after he said that, was like, well, we just met him. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. You know, how that, what's going on now. And then, because I was like, it's okay, I don't have to. I was like, but I was also like, I would be grateful to not have to sit in the pouring rain while I wait for my bus. And the moment I mentioned New York, that I was going back to New York, was the moment like something clicked in the guy. And I watched this, like one word you mentioned, and I thought it was interesting, because then I realized, okay, well, I was observing the whole time, barely talking, or I was saying the right words, I guess, that were non-trigger words. And then the moment I said I was going to New York, I was like, you know what, they were like, oh shit, no, we gotta get rid of him. It was like, I had just sentenced my death, like to them in their heads. And like, we gotta get rid of him. And I was like, all right, I guess I'm sitting in the freezing cold sleet, snow, rain. I was thinking like, this is, at that moment, it was like, I almost felt like I was kind of like they were teasing me in a way, like they're trying to, like, because, a shelter, because I had to wait, because everything, I was trying to figure out, because I didn't drive, I took the bus. And I had no hotel at that night, because I didn't have enough money to get a hotel at that night. So the moment that was introduced to me, I'm not going to lie, I entertained the idea. Yeah, well, a porch would be nice, maybe for a couple hours, I was like, and then it's like, but then I realized that the trigger, because think about it, his friend was visiting him, and he was emotional off that how he's going to leave. He was like, oh, my friend's going to leave, whatever. And I'm like, I don't want to leave. I remember thinking, like, all of a sudden this was being pushed onto me. I was like, I don't want to leave, but I don't think I have a choice. I was, I was thinking, like, in that moment, because, like, it was so, how it goes from, where you are actually clicking, and then it's like, where it's that's why I said this. New York is like a vampire. New York is like a vampire. If you even mention the state or have a picture of my New York state plates are a vampire in several areas in the whole United States. So it's instantly an identity that works against me if I think about it, not for me. I had known, you could be like, well, if someone had evil intentions or something, right? But I guess, when it reached that point, I was like, fine without that invitation, right? So, of temporary waiting, I was like, okay, whatever. Cool, it's nice. I hope everybody has a great day. I see where this is going. I hope everybody has a great day. I didn't seek to push myself into the situation. I just let it go. What happened to them later on, I don't know. If the vibes were where it was going, and if his friend had so much power over him in that emotion, it could have actually, and then watching how she interacted with the New Yorkers and, was interacting with her, made me think, like, of, like, I don't know, like brain control activity or something going on where one was more in charge somewhere. And maybe one didn't think they were. You could clearly see the evidence that there was layers going on in this 3 version, different connections of history that they've had and their interactions with each other throughout the years, and that they are familiar with each other, their upbringings. And it's like, you meet an old school friend that betrayed you, that you were once friends with, but maybe you were betrayed, and then you give them another chance, and they start hanging out with you maybe, and then it's like, well, hopefully this person, you know, maybe you're not even thinking about the other relationships that may enter, and then you're being, you know, like, well, this person here would have been a way better friend, but too busy mentally and emotionally, you know, in this shit. See what I'm saying? I think at the end of the day, there was definitely something suspicious going on with the emotionally. The guy that was dating the girl was somehow mentally fucked up enough to be manipulated in a way with apparently had a house or something, because they made it sound like it was his place, and then how it was linked to how even the girlfriend had power over him in ways, and his own friend had power over him in ways, which is interesting to make me think, like, maybe I missed something. Maybe his friend is fucking his girlfriend or something. You know, I don't know, but you know, I wouldn't be. It wouldn't be the first time I've seen something go down like that, or watched out of things where I watched a guy go in to a bar to have sex with someone's wife, and that guy that was next to him, you know, I remember hearing when they first walked in, he said something like, "Can I get a beer or get something?" And they said, "Well, you can't, you know, this is like this or whatever." Then she goes and gets something, and I was like, "That's weird." I was like, "What do you mean that person can't have that or something?" I was just like, you know, and they're like, "Don't worry, he doesn't even know." She says to me, waves her hand all like that, like he doesn't even know. And I was like, huh. Okay? See what I'm saying? There's some extra layers that go on in this, out there in the world. I think that if you don't know vibes, or you are growing up in a schools that speak nothing of frequencies and vibes, here's something I thought was interesting. When I stayed at a hostel, one of the things I heard from someone was like, "Oh, you know what high school?" I think they said high school. "You know what high school never taught me, or what school never taught me, or something like that." It was high school or something. I don't know, but they had made it sound like that, and I'm like, you know, entertain the idea. He let him speak, and he says, "Never taught me how to make money." They were like, you know, and I was like, huh, interesting, right? Because the thing is, like, being street smart is different. When I was homeless, let myself be homeless on the streets, it was a trade. I was allowing myself to be in this trade, and it was in the middle of fucking winter. I met a lot of people. I was full fucking, you know, trying to piece together some of the people I met that I was pretty sure, right, that might have had power to help me, but I don't know if they were willing. And it was like a crime to ask for help. Sometimes inside me, I felt like I felt guilty for asking for a construction worker that I don't know how I knew. I didn't know. I just went in line, you know, vibed, I guess, and went and gravitated and be like, you know, I'm getting tired of sleeping on the streets. Can I at least have some amount of money? And you know, it makes me think. And what I chose to do with that money was revive my fucking bus ticket that I missed. So, and then I left New York City for upstate New York again. So, because I could figure out how to get shelter. That's what it was. It's because I could figure out how to get shelter in upstate New York, but I couldn't figure out how to get shelter in New York City. My communication skills apparently sucked so bad that I couldn't figure out how to get an apartment complex over there, or figure out a way to, at that time. So, and I'd be like, what do you want? You know, and I think, like, there's survival, and, you know, there's surviving and thriving. And I think that's where the window of opportunity comes for manipulators to strike. They're like, oh, well, try to trick this person, and stuff like that. So it's where you have to watch out, because you're not in the luxury of, there's a mindset in the survival where you can live in the survival and be able to be, I used to say this, actually, this is what I'm actually thinking. You don't get fucked over the moment you fall asleep in survival. Now, rule number one, if you want to protect yourself in survival mode, is always know a safe place to sleep. And always know who's watching that safe place. Or if it's in any visual cue of who and what, and read that. Because you can have a mind that is active, constantly vigilant while you're awake. But the moment you fall asleep, even the most intelligent person becomes stupid. Where they shut down their body, you literally, you're exhausted and you no longer can continue. That's how I was wrong. That's what happened to me. When I was set on fire on a subway, I didn't report that I was set on fire. I reported to cops only because I wanted my phone back, but the cops in New York City did nothing about it, but paid for another subway ride for me. They were like, one cop, was like, here. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, what's this? And I just got, see what I'm saying? It's, it's the alien topic that one of them brought up to me that made me think about things. Like, they were like, oh, the alien. And I was in one of the, was at one of the places, and I talked to several different officers before, and they were like, I wonder why. And then someone was like, well, you don't need to actually come back here. This was a different event. Like, you don't even need to come back here. You don't even need to. See what I'm saying? Codependence and independence is even a psychological tactics that law enforcement uses. And it spreads so much, like the expiration. I said this before Paulie Wants a Cracker said this, okay? Is that there's mindsets that have expiration dates. So we can't see this. We can't see that. So this person can't see that. It's that thing that you can't see that's like going on inside something where you miss something. This ability where someone is clearly operatable off of emotions. Which then makes me think, like, no wonder why people are being taken advantage of. No wonder why no one's helping blind people, right? Because they're like, oh, what can I get from it? They're like, but I think in the end of the day, it's why a lot of people get fucked over. No matter what position in life you're in, because there is demons. People do have demons, and that's why you're not on the billboard. You're not selling stuff on a billboard. So you can be on that billboard and not pay anything to be on that billboard. You can do it, and but not tell you, right? That's the thing. One of us looking through. Well, you know what's going to happen in this? Well, let's go watch that TV show. Like, are you sure you watched that TV show? I was like, yeah, I watched that TV show. Why would I lie about me watching that TV? Do you remember everything happened in that show? I mean, I guess I could. If I channel it and start reading into that TV show. And then the next thing I start telling them what's going to happen before it happens in the TV show, right? Like, I can tell you what's going to happen. I watched that TV show. Now, when you start being like, well, can you tell me what happens in this show that you don't watch? reading again. Again, television, fake characters are different from real characters in the real world, but you could still apply that. See what I'm saying? How I know this is why New York City doesn't care about thieves, because they're powerless against them in the end. You know, they don't get paid enough to stop stuff like that. And if you did, a lot of them would retire a lot faster, or would take other positions of power that other people would lose that they want, because it's a control issue with amongst people as well. So there's a lot of variables in the way, and this Excelsior, this is like this superiority of the Empire State. The Empire, and it's a demonic state, is what it is, that has holy essences that mingle in it. But those holy essences usually get trapped. Not all of them discover how, to prosper, to achieve what they want. It will let people in. There's the doors with people to the side. And I never had that. I've never had that opportunity where someone was like, "Oh, I care about you. I'll help you out here." And you're like, "Well, will you play this character?" It's like, am I safe to play this character? See what I'm saying? That's how I looked at it for my acting trait, where I was willing to act more for security than I was even for money, and I should be for money as more, because I kept thinking, like, wow, if I am under the wrong director, I could get, fucked over or something. I kept thinking, like, and it's like, that's possible. You don't want that. You want to be able to feel comfortable. I don't want to go to work and worry about if I'm not there, my character is more there, and I'm doing a really good job, really, really good job at being an actor. So good that I'm now, in a very discomfortable position that I don't want to be in, like being raped or some shit, or, or because it's like, that's how I look at it. You get in a mindset, if you gotta be careful what characters you play, or, and who's around you while you play those characters. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's why I believe in safety and control. But I can't imagine how, because I have that mindset, I can't imagine how even more difficult it is if you are full time always. I don't know what the word is. Alchemical, where you are not like part time or temporarily, like where you actually genuinely are. I feel it's wrong to select a gender on this, because I don't think it really is like, lesbians or gays and stuff like that, or whatever you want to call it. I don't, I think it's more complicated than that. I think it's, it's the fact of, I don't think it's identified like that, or identified like as straight or non-straight. I think what I'm trying to say is that it's most oftenly associated with girls, I think, where they will melt right in the palm of your hands, where the guy does most of the work, and I've been in that situation as well, where I, with a moment, but realize that there's different ways as well, but it's not always that, right? Where even a guy or a girl could be in a state of mind doing things that they don't want to do, which makes my mind think like a lot about what it takes to mentally play a character that, you know, and stuff like that. I think it's interesting because I think like it reminds me of like Brad Pitt saying, for example, where I watched this interview where he was talking about like, you know, wanting to be in this one movie because this one girl was raped in this movie, where she technically, logically was raped with butter, right? So, and the director was all thrilled about it, and it was just like, oh man, I would have loved to have been in that movie. He was like, I would have loved to have been part of that and like played that scene. And he was all in that, right? That mentality, and he was like, oh, you really want to do that, right? So it makes, isn't that something? Then it could go another way around. I don't think it's just one. That one was just caught on camera, confession, and right. So things like that, I guess. Does it mean that it would have happened? Not necessarily that he would have. But what it does tell me is, if you pay attention to how socially active and what someone's doing at times, because I, you know, took the time to not just, you know, being a weirdo, studying someone else's relationship, you know, and also who they are as individuals. And it was like, well, that was a no-brainer. That one wasn't gonna last. I study, you know, a lot, and when I see like, well, it's what someone cares about. I think, like, for example, like the moment Zendaya stops showing up for Tom, and Tom stops showing up for Zendaya, it starts to put stress on the relationship, no matter what they're doing. Even if they're in a relationship with other people while they're in a relationship, which there are signs that clearly say they are, you know, or especially Zendaya, and then Tom isn't, right? You know, but it's the fact of the home part, I think, Tom, through my understanding. Or he's just a really crafty hider. But I think it's interesting to read into that, because Angelina Jolie shows she has the mindset of like of wanting to help people, but not always knowing how to help people. And then you have a set of like you know, like opportunities, you know, more, you know. So you know, you look at these type of things, so that you could see that where the work, you know, in that relationship was at, and what would make, you know, because like I said, there's some people that will have different types of relationships. Like I try to understand Halsey's, for example, multiple. Halsey in general is a very, very, I think she is very powerful in ways. Like, I don't know, it's interesting. You start looking at certain artists, like, and you see, like, well, who's going to be most likely to stay with Halsey? An aggressively, powerfully dominant man, you know, that doesn't overstep. Isn't that weird? Like how some people are like, do gravitate more for that, but they might show signs of not. Like on screen, they could show signs where they're like able to multiple relationships and stuff, but then like the moment that person, you know, to me, the one that she was with right now, I think, might still be, was showing signs of being more in charge of their relationship than she was, which was weird for Halsey, because it's usually like if you ever pay attention, like Halsey had more of a say and power grasp in most of the relationships, the on-screen ones where it showed. But like I said, you read as far as you're willing to read into things, and it's not necessarily, you could be sabotaged by many fake relationships. Nothing new can exist. So it's, like I said, I think it's a mind fuck in itself, and if I have to look at it like, I guess I'd be like, well, how am I supposed to look at that? Right, I guess. Because I think there's many ways to look at that, but it's, so many people jump on the side of Amber Heard, Johnny Depp, right, and where we're at in our lives for our decisions. I remember online a patent for Johnny Depp was trying to, or something, I don't know what it's called, I'm stupid right now, I'm getting stupider, but where he wanted something, or somebody wanted something for the Wizarding World, and I actually wrote, on the time I was entertaining the idea for a multiversal concept of things, and I see where that actually turned out. It actually was very powerful. What I said online ended up actually trickling over beyond just his associates, or where he was at, where other people, where the multiversal thing started to grow more and more and more and more of a thing. Like, they started going in that direction. Which is why now Harry Potter prequels, for example, and sequels and spin-offs were all canceled, and they went full reboot. Speaking of multiverse. So, I'm on this side. I'm not against that, but I am also, I think like, their souls are thinking, like, I think they would be okay at some point, like, oh, wow. But then some, like, thinking, like, if they really genuinely thought it was going to be, like, a legacy thing for everyone forever, I think of what interpretations takes, because the movies like the books, and I read the books, before the movies released, the first 4. So, it's I don't know, like, I think, how are you reading these books? I was reading them, as, I think you could read them differently, so you read through the perspective of the characters, or are you reading it as a perspective of yourself? When I was in elementary, I think it was elementary school, like, recess with one of my friends at the time, and I was like, let's play Harry Potter. And I liked that idea. I was like, okay, I'm down with it. Go play Harry Potter. And I remember him saying, you be Harry Potter, he'll be Ron. And I was like, instantly in that moment, I don't know what clicked in me. I was like, no, I don't want to do that. I was like, I want to go to Hogwarts. I want to, like, I was at the time, like, I want to go to a wizarding school. I see what I'm saying? Is that basically I wasn't wanting to play Harry Potter. I was wanting to play the wizarding, the stuff behind it. Because I was more interested in, even in the books, I was more interested in not Harry Potter and the other things in the background. So, my attention went first. So, you know, and looking at things like that, it's, you know, it's the, you know, thinking like of how obsessed I'd be if I was in charge. You know, like I said this before, like I don't think I could make the HBO show unless I made all the props first. But like I would feel determined on making, because the actors are going to grow, and that's a very important step to obviously to find the right cast. But I would want all the props done before I'd even cast. Like I'd want the scene setting for what's to come. Like I would be looking at the way it's set up as props. Like I want to, you know, I would have Diagon Alley built. You know, not Diagon Alley. You know, let's put it this way. I misspoke. I would have. See, my brain is all over the place. I would have. I wish people could see it non-verbally in my head, because I have the picture in my head. You know, you get off Hogwarts. You know, and have that whole setting designed. You know, that's Hogsmeade, and then up and further into towns, like bits and pieces, because I would be thinking about scenes all the way into the Goblet of Fire before I even shoot the Sorcerer's Stone. You know, when it comes to the props, because isn't that the thing about the school itself? Is that environmental stuff? Is that, you know, when I look at it, what are we doing? Or we want to keep the same image and show you the mystery of the inside, you know, not just changing the structure of what it looks like, but going more subatomic with it, kind of essence. You know, and where like Dumbledore mentions the finding the rumor requirement not by name, by not saying the rumor requirement in the Goblet of Fire, like he didn't know about the rumor requirement in the Harry Potter books. You know, if you ever read them, I don't know. Dumbledore's weird. He always was weird. He was one of those weirdest characters that was always, you know, that shook things up. So, and never aggressive about it. It was always like, you know, very different about it. Said things at times that didn't make sense, or maybe it made sense, and it's true. Like they never resolved 100% what some of the shit that Dumbledore said in the books, and that was about that particular character. He was, for certain, more weird, mysterious, and calmer, and stuff like that than any of the movies portrayed. You know, like in the books. Do I think it's going to be identical? I don't think it's going to be identical. I think it's multiversal, like I said, but I think you get it closer to it. And like it's bizarre because you start casting characters to play the characters. You know, you start to blur the line of like a fan service more than telling the story at that point. It's like casting. It's like deciding that Hagrid is going to be, I don't know, a dwarf or something, you know, or something, and it certainly would be multiversal. It would definitely take on a different essence of life for sure. If you're comparing it, especially if you're comparing it to the books. You know, I remember being a kid getting excited over the Sorcerer's Stone when that was first announced. You know, thinking, wow, I'm actually, you know, with these books, you know. I've been reading these books. I remember getting so excited over the first Sorcerer's Stone movie and having a crush on Emma Watson and stuff like that as a kid, and learning like a lot of people had similar experiences that I did, And I had those experiences ignorantly, I guess. That makes sense, like without thought. So despite that I looked at it. But I never really looked at that time. I never had a multiverse in my head. You see what I'm saying? I didn't have a multiverse in my head. I had heartbreak and coping with heartbreak and a lot of formats of hell and where I went. So at times, especially, and where I just fell into, and it was not mental. It was emotion. It's like, you ever hear like mental health, and then sometimes it's like, well, it's mental if you're actually making it mental. Like, how many people are just under the influence of it, and it's an emotion. Like, that's why I worried. Like, my first girlfriend, my first love. Maybe I had one in another life, which sometimes I feel like I did in another life before I was born, or reborn, I guess. If I looked at it like that, I could definitely sense that. But at the same time, I look at like my actual first girlfriend I've had in real, what is real world anymore, but in the real world, right? And there was no brains. You understand what I'm saying? It was all off emotion. There was no, but realizing like why it was so easily destroyed though, was because there was no brains. It was all genuine emotion that didn't know how to, understand the influence that other people were trying to have, because we didn't have a mental grasp of the world around us, being kids and shit at that time. So looking back at that, we were destined to fail, destined to be destroyed by others, no matter how badly and naturally we loved each other, or what, there were so many barriers, so many gatekeepers, and our own relationship, and it's, and then you see, and I, the difference between blind love and intelligent love, and how intelligent love is something else, or intellect, like being able to have a brain, if that makes sense, the brain that is required for what the fuck is going on in the real world, which at the time, inheriting, fucking 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s bullshit, and having it come back when it started in the 90s was like actually having people say, you know what, fuck this. But the thing is, with the 90s going into, which a lot of it was actually in the early 2000s more than the 90s, and people often associate the early 2000s actually with the 90s because it influenced a lot in the 2000s, that rebel. But the problem with it is that it was ignorant. It wasn't all-seeing. That's the problem with the 90s. The 90s introduced or reintroduced and really brought a spark that I think a lot of the decades didn't. And even when it wasn't intelligent. And that was the flaw of those influencers. That I was even listening to, like Avril Lavigne, ignorantly, not knowing how wreckful she was to her own life while she was doing it, but finding grace and love out of destruction. I was watching rebels that I was emotionally invested into blindly, and watching them eventually learning how they were, some part of them was in love with their own destruction, and the rebel phase as well. It's the rebel. You you have what's there people are trying to say and you want to break free, but the problem is like a lot of the rebels were not really breaking free. They were breaking towards a different format of peace. See what I'm saying? At a level of even what if they didn't know what it was. And in a lot of cases, it was even more failed marriages, as an example, like influencing. So future failed marriages, stuff like that, like that were like destined to come out of that. The spark, powerful, emotional, a lot of that stuff. You don't need a brain to feel, but that's kind of the thing that it reminded me of. Sometimes it's like is that you could stop, you accept the love that you think you deserve, but if you're not careful, you'll accept the love that you think everyone else thinks you deserve. How democracy works. When it's invested, I come to the realization that it's not just politics. People vote on people's actual personal lives. And verbally, it's easier to avoid verbally, but when it becomes physical, but if someone is, it's the vulnerability of people trying to make this person do this, make that person do it. I'm not, someone says, well, we gotta go to this place, and I'm like, shit, how am I gonna get to Cincinnati, Ohio in this amount of time, and is it even, are we really doing this? Should I even mention this, right? Or something like it's brought up, and it's like, well, we'll go to this area. And like, oh, you got a day. You better get there. Less than a day. And it's like, well, it'd be great if I get there and it's actually real. Maybe something come out of it. But like, then it's like, well, what if it's not? I just go there for, I don't do that. That's what I'm saying. Like, there was a point in my life where I was stupid, where I would have done that. Out of just pure emotion. Crush or love. But in this day and age, every time I've learned that every time I did that, and thinking like, well, the next person could be different, the next person could be different. None of them were, though. They were all the same, which made me think like, wow, I'm, apparently, a horrible person or something. Like I'm reading this shit wrong. I mean, I guess it could have been worse. I could have actually gotten into one of those relationships, and then it turned out that it was like, I've never been in an abusive relationship unless it was with my parents, any of my parents, or school friends, or if you want to call them friends, which I unfortunately have called them friends. I don't know. I had to figure something out to exist with some of them, because the schools certainly weren't helping back then. So it's an interesting world we live in, and I think, if anything, we live in one of the most psychological times. You want to look at icons? Look at yourself in the mirror. And ask, do you want enslaved minds? Why? So what will you achieve from not enslaving minds? Isn't that the fucked up part? It's like, oh, I cannot be in a relationship unless I enslave minds. Like, I'm gonna get fucked over. How many images? What's the right image? I think the answer is right in front of everyone. I don't think it's. I think it's bigger than humans and smaller than humans. As I said, subatomic, it reaches, and the more I look at it, the more I can be sad at myself, because I start to see myself as a sacrifice to get this message. to, the truth. I may never be known for any of the things I've ever done in my life. Someone else may take the credit for a lot of the stuff that I've done in my life. And that's just the unfortunate side effects of getting there, to the truth, and making it so other people can see it eventually, so they can actually one day, if not discover the truth of me, of myself, at least be able to prevent others from doing it to themselves, doing it to them. As I said, sometimes you've got to be the villain to educate the world, even if you're not. You got to play the role, and I do think sometimes people get in that mindset. It's how you do it, how you go about it. Some people do it by hurting others. I do it by hurting myself instead, if you think about it. So, that's an example. But it's, so it has dabbled, just like I think a lot of people in the careers have done it. Why would someone write someone else's music and let someone else take the credit for their music? Is there a part of them they want to be a singer? They don't know how to be a singer. They don't know because something is stopping them from doing it themselves. That's what I'm saying. I think there's a lot of artists that know exactly what I'm talking about with hurting themselves to try to achieve something in their lives, where a lot of their art is like doing a trade because they don't know how else they're going to eventually get the life that they really want by not giving their life away. See what I'm saying? The career you make, and you might be making money off of, isn't even it's like giving away your life, right? And you're not really getting anything but what? Money out of it? So what I'm saying, you're not really getting what you want from it. That's what I'm saying. I've come to the realization, where so many things speak at so many levels of things that I've done in my past, including music that I ignorantly didn't know was written by someone else. And I get become more and more observant over who's in, where I'm not just seeing the fiction anymore, so where I used to be, or stuff like that. So it's, I start to see things. Sometimes I'll still challenge myself and burst myself. So, but when I look at it, maybe it's the part that is it words? No, it's the essence is behind words. That's why someone's like, that's why I don't, people would, it doesn't mean anything unless it means something. It could be the same damn. Someone could verbally say it the same exact way to you, to me, to that person, and we could all have a different experience with the same set of words in the same tone. It's the essence that one gets from it. What do I get from that? Violet from Team Kill Media. This, to me, is nothing but a lesson for others, because I know that there's a bigger essence here, even that has other names, other things that are connecting in layers, and gets out there in the world this is a gift, in other words. Not for me, because this is, if anything, this is torture for me. But for others, it's, it's enlightening if they know how to read beyond things. The ambience of one shows. People want what they want. Why is vampires coming back? Why is it finally that vampires are what I used to say? Don't drink blood. That now and now more, the vampires that don't drink blood are coming out. The band. Do you think Amber Heard shit on the bed? The photo evidence is too much for the jury, is what the court said. We could bring cameras in and focus on the entertainment between these two clearly horrible decision makers and in relationship where they both, or one was more manipulative. How is it that a girl wins and then a guy wins? It doesn't have anything to do with sex. See what I'm saying? I think at the end of the day, it has everything to do with the brain, with the mentality, with the brain of the individual, and what they know, and how far, and sometimes love is so can make losers. And they get to be winners if they end up find where they could be winners. And me personally, I know how fucked up the United States is. When it comes to the flaws, both federal and non-federal. So it's not perfect. Perfect will be guaranteeing everybody's life is perfectly safe. Or that no one's going to get screwed over. But I think we live in a government that has always been about the state of mind. Why they're not called territories. Why I think the reason why people, I think there's something to the origin and the past and the future, which is why I say what someone wants to be known for, what they plan on doing after, is going to affect the trait of that person's intelligence, who is in charge of that mind. And I think you'll find that subatomically there is formats of loyalty, measurements, and what people seek. And I think in the end, it's through my experiences, it's not necessarily what I want, but it's what's going to actually happen, whether I want it to happen or not. What I want, shit, I want to get married, live happily ever after, free will, her to decide. I could sit here and say, Victoria Justice would be nice, it'd be the perfect, or, be very selective on my type, but at the same time, I feel like if I was manifesting that, to be very controlling. Like in some part, like having so she also right or would have that free will, or Nina the three or what whoever has the intelligence or free will to in that general direction that shares attraction matches, but it's stuff like that. But it's there's definitely turn-offs in relationships. Body counts are genuinely not a thing that is attractive. But there's lots of things you can find not attractive. See what I'm saying? I don't know. Like I said, I feel like I've just destroyed myself in my pursuits of everything else to the point, like I said, I don't think it matters. But if I want, as a guy, I probably would be evil. Have millions of wives. I wouldn't be able to just be fucking going down this, picking the top of the top. Then, if that's the case, I'd, it'd be an entitlement and power to be like, oh shit, I just married Taylor Swift. I'm the first person that, had a child with Taylor Swift. That's an iconic statement as well. And then going out and passing and moving on. And I'm looking at the next, oh, this is the image that I want everyone else to see. Right? Which is not really me. Doesn't have to be. It's to know where to suffer, to know where to trade. I could never be a lot of things, but there are some things spiritually and mentally I could accomplish. I could be a lesbian. Mentally and spiritually. And physically stay as a man. I could play the role mentally and spiritually. Like, or, you see what I'm saying? But not. That sounds like you're fucked. Straight. Got zigzag. No wonder why people do drugs. No wonder why people end up broken. I don't believe. I believe in. I don't know. People have their choices. I certainly hope they do. But it's hard to believe that they do. If I were to put myself in a zigzag, let's put it that way, I would be even more afraid of being raped. Being afraid of being taken advantage of. Shit. I'm gonna get fucking raped. Like, this is the end. I'm gonna get titty fucked. See, mentality. An actor knows. Farther, the character, they could bring a character to life on a timer. And you watch, oh my god, like, I never get laid unless I give my bank account away. It's not hard to get laid. The hard part is finding true love, some everlasting real love, especially in careers that make it so damn difficult to even, be pro there. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if someone found their true love and had it ripped away from them in the industry, like where society had systematically murdered them, and they could have been soulmates. That's the tragic part. genuinely believe that good people in the world and bad people in the world have been fucked over by those other forces. Which comes back down to my thing about how democracy in the end doesn't always have intelligence. It's more preference, that people have, whether it's accurate or not, whether it's fact or not, and how powerful opinions can be over some people's brains. My brain is certainly not getting paid millions of dollars for the lies that people spread about it, which means it affects the brokers, people would be paying. Apparently. I think that's the image that people are afraid of Hollywood, is whether people really genuinely believe in that image or like, oh, you can't have this person around. Why do you think they didn't why they didn't hire, Jonathan back because of his image? What I've seen is what was leaked online. And what was leaked online looked like boundaries were crossed. And someone tried to leave, and then yet she was the one who pursued him, and something clicked in him where he didn't know what the hell, how to respond. And apparently got rid of her. Maybe staged it. Possibly. There's not enough evidence. Doesn't like that as well. It's shit. Like, so you're like, oh, so you think so? I think you want people to trust the government, then stop hoarding knowledge and the truth. Start making the entire world the jury instead. And not just showing lube and prostitution. Isn't that something for Diddy? Like, if that was the evidence of the jury, I personally, it's very fucking weird. I could be judgmental off all that lotion. But that lotion doesn't necessarily... He has all this money, this idea, what the hell is he... I get this idea where there's potentially things going on, and it seems certainly like there was. There's times where he was not even hiding it. He was confessing it. So it's like, or at least that interest. But does it mean he did these things? That's the real question. I guess you'd have to see these. You'd have to have seen everything. And I'm sure they're not. If they have recordings of these events, they probably wouldn't show the jury, which they should show the jury, because how in the hell are they going to know if they're like so censored about it? People with demons, I'm sure, like, people are like, oh, you know what? That's just lube and prostitute. They could charge them for prostitution and lube. I'm not. It's against it's certainly the prostitution part is definitely is corruption. But it's sad that there's a lot of New Yorkers that are actually not really against prostitution. And to say New York, I know a lot in upstate New York. Shit, I live with one that was loudly even not against prostitution. You know, at least the idea of mine, or I've been my own different people. I've lived with people. Oh, no. If anyone says to me that Earth is heaven, I wish, but it's not. It's hell, because every good thing on Earth requires the ability to protect itself, and there's so many people that are out to destroy. In other words, you got to be independent and not codependent. And if you're some people are codependent on fucking money to survive. Can't live without a roof because someone's holding my life hostage, or stuff like that. That's not independence. The moment that you're out pursuing money, that's codependence to money. That's codependence to the landlord. That's codependence to that's codependence to taxes. It's codependence to, because you can't see any other way of living, because you're so obligated to fall in that line. And what does it really do for anybody? What does money really do for anybody? But give people headaches and push people into numbers to 6-7 the shit out of people's brains. And at the end, it's like, what's it mean? Fight? It's not enough to go off. So people are just frozen in that. What about low? What about short? What about the subatomic essences? True love is a fucking dream. It's just not real. It's not attainable. In the United States of America, it's not attainable. Never was. Under any, if you people like to blame presidents, but it never was under any of them. It's just delusions. Parasocial is probably the best relationship anybody can fucking ever have in their lives. Is a mentally ill one. Because that's how the fucking United States of minds works. Their ideas, it's all about getting and trade and all this other shit. That's why I turned into vengeance. That's why Taylor Swift turned into vengeance. Fuck. That's why, and she has more power than I have. Well, when people turn into vengeance, they take their shit and build things off of vengeance. Didn't get her true love at the end of the day. It just got her power, the ability to, create it, and yet apparently is still fell victim to bad relationships. It clearly shows you that a vengeful mind is not enough to achieve things. Well, maybe certain things, but not what one person really wants. What that person may want, but may get something else out of the deal. And so I know. I don't even think like Taylor Swift and Travis will stay together. Even if they got married, had a kid, I don't see happening. Their relationship being like immortal in life. Like they're not going to die or anything. Like and they're going to be a widow, it's going to be them going their separate ways, no matter what. Trust me. A lot of times it feels staged. How many artists stage things, and then it actually turns into something. Girls just want to have fun is a way to make a lot of victims. Get a lot of sex. They just want to have fun. They want to get married. None of them are going to marry them. And if they do, it's like I said. You ask your question: do you really, really want true love, or do you just want to have fun? Because that's why people are destined to be fucked up. Just fun has consequences. Karma. One of the best things I ever done. Was not contribute to the same disease and plague that most people do. Which is why I would never bring life into this world, a human life into this world. Willingly acknowledging, unless I knew that they could rule it if it wasn't holy, or and sacred, something like that. Which we're not in the side of state. It never was. Not necessarily this, or this holiness. More outnumbered by the negative things. I can read people. Don't trust me. I can read people. I know a lot of people looking at me, probably coming up with all sorts of things. What do I see in myself? I see whatever the hell you want me to be in your mind. But I'm realistically at the moment talking through a mic that is inside or attached to this controller to a DualSense on camera under the roof of a broken game. That I paid for. How to make autism. How to turn yourself retarded. How to never get laid. Ta-da! It's like, you gotta get in a relationship. You know what? You go to a video game store and say, we stole your heart. So, oh, you co-own that video game store. Behind the scenes. That married couple is only staying together through let's go to the hotel with different people. For sexual practices. She actually went. That's funny. I should have. Says nothing. I thought I said like words on the end of the day. A valid number. A valid number was calling me. Pandora's box. I certainly did open it with self-help, destroy the gates, all chains that held it. The whole world. Part of it. Guilty as not charged. But was charged. Wow. This should be more motivating, more electric. Alrighty then. Horrible accent, horrible English. Vote. My guess is no one will be able to. What's your superpower? Don't tell me. Tell yourself.